Hi, and welcome to the Home Video Emporium. I'm your host, my name is Brendan, and with this series what I hope to do is to catalog my entire collection of home video titles and determine which of these movies still belongs amongst my elite and esteemed collection and needs to be preserved for years to come, and which of these movies, unfortunately, may need to be purged so we can free up some shelf space, so we can still add some new movies that I have pretty much run out of room. And I'm still looking to continually add more movies to the collection. And I'm kind of at that point now where I first need to subtract before I can add. So we're looking to get rid of about 30 to 50 movies by the end of the series. If nothing else, we're going to watch some good movies together, hopefully, that we may not have seen in quite a long time. Today's episode is 1994's In the Mouth of Madness, directed by John Carpenter. Stars Sam Neill, Julie Carmen, and Charlton Heston. When this movie came out, it just completely flew over my head. I never heard about it. I never saw any advertisement for it. And then it was a few years later, like on 97, 98, 99, around there, something, maybe 2000. A friend of mine had taped this off of like HBO or Showtime or one of those channels. And so we just watched the VHS together. And, we loved it. We loved all the effects. We loved the story. It kind of is what got me reading a lot of Stephen King. I like the concept of this book is so crazy that it's going to make people go crazy, and I was wondering if any of Stephen King's novels had that ability. Apparently not. If they did, I would unfortunately not be here talking. So, despite that, some of the Stephen King stuff was a hit or miss. But despite that, obviously left a pretty big impression on me. It took me a while to rewatch it for whatever reason. I don't think it was around 2010 or so that I may have just rented again on DVD because I wanted to watch it again. And it was just as crazy as I remembered it. And then a few years later, I would purchase it at on Blu-ray. I think we're going Barnes & Noble. I can't be sure, but I think this was just a Barnes & Noble purchase for me. And obviously, what made me want to purchase is the concept. I thought it was so cool that there's this work that is so powerful that even though it's destructive, that can end the world just by literature. And in some ways, I think the movie is a bit of a critique on that, about the power of fandom, the power about how some people will escape into alternate realities, for whatever reason, even if it is a horror movie or horror franchise or horror book series, whatever. Sometimes it may be easier to cope with the troubles of reality that way, dealing with yourself. And by escaping that, your reality, you can have your perspective slanted. And I think we have seen it sometimes where people do take their fandom a little bit too seriously. We're seeing it a little bit in New Jersey, New York, with this whole World Cup thing, with the whole Knicks winning the whatever NBA championship, I believe it's called. People taking their fandom way too far. And I think, in some ways, I think that's what this is about. In addition to being just a crazy, crazy monster movie, you have some pretty cool special effects in this. Special features, it works both ways. You have a really good piece with Greg Nicotero, who did a lot of the makeup effects. He talks about, in addition to how they did that big scene with all the monsters at the end, they had all these puppeteers. They also talk there is an alternate ending that I'm really not sure how it would play out, where this ends with Trent, played by Sam Neill, wonderfully played by Sam Neill. He's in the movie theater laughing, and somehow he's got a popcorn, and Julie Carmen's character Styles is going to come in behind him, and then somehow tentacles are going to raise up from the popcorn. I'm not really sure how that would happen. If he would have still done the laughing, or if he would have just started watching the movie and then she would have come in and the scene would have played out. As it is, the scene of him just sitting there laughing till he cries is so good. Sam Neill is, obviously an expert with these sort of cosmic, psychological madness horror movies. As we go on in the series, we're going to talk about Possession, we're going to talk about Event Horizon. He stars in both of them. He gives pretty unhinged performances in both of them. And there's just something about him. He doesn't seem like he's really trying, like he's not, trying so hard where you can see after really trying. Just a scene where he's trying to drive out of Hobbs End, and just the look on his face, it's just a close-up of his face, but he's conveying so much. The character losing his grip on reality, and then when he finally leaves and he's going to the I don't even know what that is, where he's asking that woman if there's a Hobbs End, and he's, I need to talk to your supervisor. He sells everything. He's so good at unhinged characters. I wish he would do them more. Unfortunately, none of the none of the movies he was in where he did the kind of more unhinged things are really connected that well with audiences. Although I think Possession and maybe all three of them have really kind of got a bit of a comeback, and people are reappraising them. There's also an interview with Julie Carmen. She actually says that she based her character off of Rosalind Russell's character in His Girl Friday. I really don't see that at all. She reminds me a lot more of like Sean Young in Blade Runner, where she has a kind of coldness about her. Yeah, I don't see the His Girl Friday at all. There's also a pretty interesting one where it was some horror TV show or web series or whatever, where they visit all the scenes where In the Mouth of Madness was filmed. He tries to go into the hotel where the character stayed and sets off some alarm, and he almost gets arrested. And he shows the cafe in the beginning where the guy breaks through the door with the axe. So that is actually it's a fun one where you can. They also show the office building where Heston's office was, and I guess then it was 2 floors. Now the office building has kind of changed to 1. It's pretty fun. A lot of special features, you may not appreciate them if you didn't like the movie that much, but if you did like the movie and you are a fan, I think they do complement the movie very well. There is also coming out very soon, I believe in July, Arrow Video is releasing, I believe, a 4K and maybe just a Blu-ray edition of this. The artwork cover looks absolutely gorgeous. Arrow is doing such a great job with their packaging, with their presentation. Right now I think they're the best. Not that this Shout Factory one is not good at all. I love the cover. But I think there are a few special features on that one that may not be on this one. I think there's an additional interview with John Carpenter. So if you're interested in adding In the Mouth of Madness to your collection, you may want to wait, because maybe the Arrow Video one may be a bit superior to the Shout Factory one. Maybe not. Maybe this one will just be a little bit cheaper, and all is good that ends well. So that'll be it for Mr. John Carpenter. We did 4 films in this collection. We did The Thing, we did Big Trouble in Little China They Live, and In the Mouth of Madness. When I first started this, I thought because he kind of does all genre work, that I would kind of just say, oh, he kind of just did the same thing. But really, all 4 movies are very stylistically different. The Thing, despite the fact that it is this, really claustrophobic horror movie with all these amazing special effects, the lighting and everything, and just the vibe of it is all very much more realistic. It's much more, which I think maybe what adds to the terror of it, where when you get to In the Mouth of Madness and the other ones, Big Trouble in Little China, Carpenter is doing a lot more experimental things. He's doing unmotivated lighting cues, where the lights will just go out on a character, or the lights will start to flicker, just to show the pending doom of the scene. As I mentioned with Big Trouble in Little China, the scenes where you have some of the sword fighting and the background is completely blurred out, so you can have the characters move really fast, and at the same time you're not losing concentration. You're able to follow the action, able to follow the characters. And They Live, he is doing a lot of things where he's the black and white, all the crazy creature effects. So he really does experiment quite a bit, and he really does show that he can do quite a lot of range while still being primarily a genre director. And I was wondering why John Carpenter never really had his big breakout hits the way someone like James Cameron had became this big mainstream star. They kind of started in similar situations, and even though I think most people think of John Carpenter with Halloween, he did the first one. I think he produced, I have no idea how many there are. I never really got into that series. But I think he's much more interesting than that. He's whether he's doing it intentionally or not, as I mentioned with They Live, he kind of throws away the fact that the movie is really about any kind of social issues about brainwashing and subliminal messaging. But I think it's in there, even though he's not writing a lot of the stuff himself. I think he still is conveying it really well. And why he never became, I don't think he ever would have become like a Cameron, where he's doing these $300 million movies. But I really don't know why. Even Tobe Hooper, he did Poltergeist, so he was working with Spielberg. Carpenter just kind of wanted to blaze his own trail maybe. He doesn't really do a lot of movies anymore. He's mostly focused on music, which I think is actually pretty good. I have one of his albums and it's a really cool just like vibe when you're like moving around at night. I like to listen to it when you're just seeing the street lights. It kind of relaxes you, but gets you in kind of like a hip kind of mood. You want to see a lot of like neon lights, and it's just the feeling that you get from it more than anything else. So, why Carpenter never became a big star? I asked that question, but I really don't know the answer. Maybe he was too independent and did not play well with others. I've heard stories that, especially on Big Trouble in Little China, he got into a lot of fights with the studio. So maybe he just wanted to do his own thing. And, from the 4 movies that we've reviewed here, I'm glad he did. I think they are all, this has been a really fun series with Carpenter. They're all really, I don't, every movie is different, but they're still just completely crazy fun, and he's lost my train of thought. But I definitely would recommend checking out John Carpenter if you haven't. There is Halloween, there's Ghost of Mars, there's Christine, there's a vampire movie that I think has Cheryl Lee in it. So he's done a whole bunch of stuff. I think, are all these movies keepers? I don't know. What do you guys think? Should we keep all 4 of them? I think I've reviewed them all positively, but we'll see. As I said, there's only so much room. So for now, all 4 of them are keepers. How would I rank them? I'll do. It's kind of obvious to put The Thing at number 1, but that really does, I think, stand head and shoulders above the others. It's just tough. I'll go in The Mouth of Madness for number 2. The vibe he creates, the cinematography, the lighting cues. I said a lot of unmotivated lighting cues. The paranoia he's able to do. Doing that movie helped get you inside of Trent's head, and creating the town of Hobbs End with Frances Bay, I believe is the actress's name. She was in Twin Peaks and Blue Velvet. I think she was in some Seinfeld episodes. She's really great in this too. The makeup that Nicotero and his team did for her was incredible. So in The Mouth of Madness will be number 2. Number 3 will go then Big Trouble in Little China, Then They Live. It's close. They're all very close. So that's going to wrap us up with John Carpenter. Hope you all enjoyed the series, and I hope you guys are all going to still stay tuned for our next series. So until next time, be kind and rewind to each other, and remember, it's not a true home without home video. Thank you. Goodbye.